Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the Main Street Cinema, the show where we discuss the finer points of filmmaking. All right, now, Dragon, you and I, we've had our hiccups in the past, technically speaking, especially the first year or two we were doing this. Notoriously, I think probably the most frustrating thing that's happened to us in the past is my web browser crashing, my computer crashing, or something like that, and I think, folks, the limit for how long a host can be out of the Hangout session before it goes off air is something like 5 minutes. And so, Dragon, what are the odds that, after years of fine-tuning this, right, after getting this to a well-oiled machine, the podcast that brings us to our knees, technically speaking, would be one about the making of The Room?
You can't write that sort of thing.
I mean, isn't that just somewhat ironic, right? Don't you just have to kind of laugh at that? Well, you know what, folks? We've been building up to the Disaster Artist, and we've been stoked on it. And, of course, The Room has been like a big running gag between Monkey and I on the channel. So why not? Let's give the Disaster Artist a bonus podcast. All right, so just to establish where both of us stand on this, Dragon, you are, of course, the curious onlooker to The Room. You've discovered it through Nostalgia Critic. You've watched the movie, what, like once?
Well, I mean, beyond Nostalgia Critic clips, I've seen it once. I've watched it once. Bear in mind, before the movie came out, so I don't have like all the cool stuff to read into it on a second watch quite yet.
Okay, and I'm kind of like, I've been into The Room for years. Actually, to tell you the truth, I'm pretty sure it was Monkey's fan of The Room that kind of got me into The Room. So that's kind of how it goes. It's kind of like one of those cult things, right? Like
I guess that makes you more
situated. What?
I guess that makes you Greg Sestero then.
I guess. And then you could say that I might have been an inspiration for you to look into The Room as well. So you know how that goes. It's like a chain. But anyways, so I've been studying The Room. One of the big things we hit on, Dragon, in last night's podcast about the Disaster Artist was the fact that since I've literally studied The Room as a movie, I look at The Room as sort of like an examination of Tommy Wiseau as a human being. You know what I mean? Like I kind of see some proof, some sort of like weirdly profound moments in The Room. I think kind of like the hanger in which I hang all that is the line in which Tommy says to Denny, "If a lot of people love each other, the world would be a bad place to live." Now, Dragon, you see like that sort of simplicity to me and that kind of optimism. It's like, I don't know, it's weird to say, but like I think that's what makes The Room what it is that Tommy Wiseau is such a fascinating individual and he injects so much of his own life and so much of his own unique and odd and branded sensibilities into this movie. And of course, that's what the Disaster Artist captures. That's kind of like the Disaster Artist is, kind of the movie within the movie that might one day be turned into another movie because all the making of this was recorded and he was playing in character. Dragon, do you want to give us a little taste of that? Just a little taste? Maybe not as long of a tangent as last night, but just a little snippet.
One could imagine that Mr. Wiseau, one could imagine that he would look to some other kind of uber meta making ofs, such as the experience of Man on the Moon through the most recent documentary released this year, Jim and Andy, which I can only imagine.
We really need to talk about that sooner rather than later, just to put that out there. I mean, we're packed for our seasonal shenanigans schedule, but that's been getting a lot of buzz. I really want to talk about it. But anyways, Dragon.
I can only imagine the conversation going like, "Oh, Seth, come over here, Seth." Yeah, James, what is it? No, not James. I'm not James. Listen, Seth, that's not important. Listen. I just watched the most amazing movie on Netflix. Now, on Netflix, got this movie called Jim and Andy, and with congratulatory obligated Tony Clifton. Oh my God, Seth, this movie's amazing. This is the movie we need to make. James and Tommy, there's there's a book we're basing this off of, right? Well, I know that. Of course, I know. I'm saying we could make it even better by doing that, and with you shoot it. You my camera guy. You shoot it. You help me make this movie, Jim and Andy, not Disaster Artist, but we call it Disaster Artist anyway. But I only play the DP. I don't actually make the. I don't actually work the camera. Seth, what are you saying?
All right. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Dragon. Let's give him a round of applause, folks. Okay, so Dragon, I think right before we jump in, we kind of landed at the center point of the movie, which is, of course, the infamous belly button sex scene, which, oh boy, folks, let's just say I think that scene in particular is what really captured the tension of what I really wanted this whole movie to be like. So with that in mind, let's just kind of lay our foundational, like, you know, kind of like what we thought, sort of our thesis statements on this movie. So as for me, I've seen this movie twice. Of course, I was super hyped for this movie. Like, this is my most anticipated movie in the last 2 years, because this movie was supposed to originally come out in 2016. And, you know, when it was supposed to come out in 2016, it was my most anticipated movie of 2016. So, you know, so granted to say I was stoked. And Dragon, that initial viewing for me was just surreal, because James Franco's performance in this film, I think it deserves all the hype it's been getting. I think it's captivating. I think it's mesmerizing. It's for someone who's, you know, really kind of like studied Wiseau. I mean, I think he nails it. It's not just an impression. It goes so far beyond an impression. Like, he really embodies the character. Like, there is no Franco in this performance. You know, there is no like, I know that face. You know, there's none of that. There's none of that. I really think that James Franco, like, you know, sure, there are comedic elements to it, but Franco also, he nails the menace. He nails kind of like the skeptical, like, what the hell is this guy's problem quality? And most importantly, I think James Franco nails the humanity and sort of like the sympathetic, kind of pathetic nature of Tommy Wiseau as a person. Dave Franco, on the other hand, Dragon, is where I feel like the movie kind of starts to falter. Dave Franco is honestly maybe one of the most disappointing performances of the year for me, just because I really feel like he didn't put a... There is one good scene with Dave Franco that we'll get to, Dragon. I'll give you that much. But, and with that in mind, I feel like the movie itself could have been a lot... It could have had more of a bite to it, folks. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I feel like it was a good kind of representation of the story. It was a good... You know, it gave a lot of good stuff in it, and I think it's anchored by the performance. But, Dragon, I don't know. Like, part of me feels like this whole behind-the-scenes shenanigans of, you know, Franco directing as Wiseau, part of me feels like that kind of hurt the overall product. Because I could only imagine what this movie would be like with that same Wiseau performance by Franco anchoring it, directed by someone like Paul Thomas Anderson or David Fincher. You know, people who really know the biopic, who really know how to get into these sort of character studies of these, like, really fish out of water, weird people. So in that respect, Dragon, I really do like the movie for what it is, which is essentially a little bit classier version of a typical James Franco, Seth Rogen comedy that has some cool, you know, like, movie trivia and Easter eggs in it, anchored by a fantastic performance by Franco. But it could have been a contender. And I don't think it quite gets there, Dragon. I don't think this movie quite gets to greatness. But the Franco performance, like I said, is really, it's something to behold. So I give that all the credit in the world. So, Dragon, what's your overall thoughts on this?
Yeah, overall, I remember seeing this movie. I had a wonderful experience, as if I were seeing a screening of The Room, and the crowd was electric. People were there because they wanted to be there. I mean, there were laughs, there was investment, it was a very pleasurable experience seeing the movie the way I did. It was a very good experience.
I'm really happy you got that theater experience. That's awesome.
I went into the movie again. Basically, I enjoyed. As always, I enjoy a good biopic. You know, I enjoy, like, it was kind of going into with somewhat of an Ed Wood, Man on the Moon expectation, kind of blend on that. So again, the marketing really had me. It's like, okay, I'm very interested to see how this is going to go. I mean, it was very hopeful I was going to come to my theater, and it did, and again, paid out wonders. Anyway, yes, I mean, I'm still really enjoying the movie. I've only seen it once. I didn't get to do this in the first part, so I might as well do it here to make sure I don't forget this time. Okay. Dave Franco. So let me weigh in on Dave Franco. So yes. I really, bear in mind, again, Evan
like I said, Dragon, there is one great scene with him, performance-wise, that we'll get to very soon. But outside of that one scene, I don't feel like he's trying too hard.
I would argue, I don't know. I think he's given a good effort. Again, I think he looks like I think he does look like Greg Sestero. I think there's enough there. I mean, look, when we get to the side by side towards the end of the movie, I think it's remarkable there. And you got to remember, he's playing it. Again, from what I've heard about, based on my barometer, what's in the book is mainly coming from Tiki. I've done some very rudimentary research on Tiki. He's kind of my go-to guy, and like kind of the differences from the book and the movie. Basically, they kind of used each other a little bit more in the book. And again, there's always that whole like 40%, the unreliable narrator in the real life Tommy Wiseau saying book's 40% true, movie's 99% true. So again, there's definitely
the book is pretty much like, they left stuff out of the book, but the stuff that they left out doesn't really affect the overall story all that much. So
exactly. So you always have to take that with a grain of salt, and whichever account you're going with.
Folks, Tommy Wiseau lives on his own planet. I think we can all acknowledge and love and respect that.
Yeah, but regardless, I mean, this movie is kind of born from the Ed Wood it's more optimistic, kind of romanticized approach. However, again, the thing we got to give credit to with the Franco performance is that we're not shying away from the true life qualities with Tommy Wiseau, and then again, there is some manipulation there. There is a lot of resounding sympathy, and again, you go into this movie, you're expecting maybe just kind of a gag performance almost, but no, you're seeing there's a layered character. There's a layered character, a guy who, again, we have some kind of questions. Again, we have the main questions, like we don't know those three inalienable facts about Tommy Wiseau. We don't know where he comes from. We don't know how he makes his money, and we don't know comes from how he makes his money.
Age.
Yes, thank you. And we don't know his age. And we also have like kind of some other things. Like there's like kind of some questionable factoids that are in the movie, like, hey, he was in a car accident. Perhaps that led to Tommy Wiseau being who he is. But again, it's unreliable narrative. You're not sure if he's just making himself sound like James. Oh yeah, I was in a car accident. I came out. I want to be a filmmaker, like George Lucas.
I'm better than James Dean.
Exactly, and what I guess what I'm getting at is that I think there's the friendship that you have between these characters is a really great investing quality, and the argument I guess I made in the first part was that I really think that Franco directing in character. When we say in character, he didn't go super method like Jim Carrey did, but the idea is once he had the makeup and the process done, he'd be Wiseau the whole day, so he didn't lose it, so he didn't Basically, on the set, he was Wiseau. He didn't really go home as Wiseau. That's kind of the gist of it. So maybe annoying to Seth Rogen and his grandparents, but regardless. I'm saying I think what that brought though to the production, and James Franco, he did that of course, so he could basically, it's like one of the rare times in one of the rare opportunities in your career where you'd be able to. It's like once in a lifetime opportunity. Basically, do something so meta and so layered in character like that. You get to direct like Wiseau directed The Room. You get to direct this as Wiseau, and by proxy, kind of capture lightning in a bottle again. And I think you have the Room sensibilities kind of applied to the film. That's why we kind of romanticize some of those elements, which I thought was really interesting. And that's a real interesting layer to the Tommy Wiseau as well. Is that here's a guy who loves America, who he hyper realizes the American dream in cinema, basically all the stereotypes and everything that we have in films, and just kind of like the heightened quality is now heightened times 11 with Tommy Wiseau, what he perceives the great parts of America to be, and based on that, I think that's to a much more kind of tamed level we get through Franco in character directing. That kind of applies to kind of the sentimentality here and there, but as well as we see we're not shying away from the unlikable qualities of Wiseau, and with Greg we have just kind of that more optimistic, kind of a more placating Greg Sestero on the sidelines. I think Dave Franco. I got to discern Francos here. Sorry, Dave Franco. I think Dave Franco he brings a Sestero I can invest in for the movie.
Let me just tell you, like, the only gripe I have with Dave Franco's performance is that, to me, like, vocally he doesn't even try to sound like Sestero. Because to me, like, Dave Franco has one voice, and it's his own voice. It's just that kind of nasally, like, oh, hey, guys, how's it going, And I don't know, I mean, maybe that's just, like, me. Like, to me, that's kind of, like, my problem with Dave Franco as an actor overall, is that I really, like, every movie he shows up in, like, some movies, like, I think the franchise he shines in is Neighbors Dragon. Neighbors and Neighbors 2, he was really good in. But I don't know, it's just... Maybe it's just I don't really care for that nasally voice he has, and Greg Sestero kind of has like that deep husky voice, like, I mean, the candles, the sexy dress, the music, You know, like Dave Franco's like, I mean, the candles, the sexy dress, you know, I don't know, just vocally to me, it was just really off. Dragon, I will agree with you, though. Visually, it's pretty spot on. Especially with the beard. When he has the beard, it's almost creepy how much he looks like Sestero.
Exactly. Now, let me pose this to you as a response to that. It's kind of funny, just kind of another meta thing, like looking at the Ed Wood comparison. Of course, Ed Wood stars Johnny Depp, and Tommy Wiseau wanted Johnny Depp to play himself. But you'll notice, like, Ed Wood versus Depp. I mean, look at Johnny Depp versus the actual Ed Wood.
Movie star. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You know, look at Johnny Depp versus the real Ed Wood, and again, in a similar vein, Ed Wood, he's more kind of, it's a romanticized version of Ed Wood. You know, he's more of a good-looking guy, and at the same time, he's nicer, he's more hopeful, idealistic. You don't have to like kind of the bouts of alcoholism or kind of the womanizing. We don't really have that in that character. And I would argue that you're absolutely right. You're not wrong that he doesn't sound like Greg Sestero, but
at all, like not even close.
I will say this though. I think, you know, in the interviews, the main interview being the Shut Up and Talk interview with Doug Walker, and like a few like snippets here and there with like stuff where he's doing like press with Wiseau for this movie.
He's a little bit more soft spoken.
Well, that, but mainly just he seems like a cool passive. He just seems like a cool passive guy with kind of that vague baby face I see going on. They talk about all through the movie, and it's like, what?
I just said, "Oh, baby face."
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm. I think it's remaining true to this to kind of what I've seen publicly of Sestero, and as well just kind of what this movie's going for with their Sestero interpretation. Again, basically it's kind of like an artistic liberties with, okay, so we have Dave Franco. It looks remarkably like the guy. It doesn't really sound like him. Not really much we can do about that. Sure, we're pitching him down, but you know what? It's again, I think he's still giving a good performance. So it doesn't bother me one iota. But bear in mind, I don't worship Sestero. I don't track in Sestero.
Dragon Sestero is like, he's kind of like the white whale for me, because he was at my local bookstore and I missed him. Like, I had no idea until it was too late.
Honestly, I don't think that ever shows.
Sestero was elusive to me because I could have gotten, like, I could have talked to the guy, you know what I mean? Because those bookstore signings, like, you know, they're intimate events, you know what I mean? Like, I went to one with Lemony Snicket, and Lemony Snicket was, like, playing accordion and singing, like, right up to my face, you know? It was, like, so I could have, like, really, gotten a nice, some nice personal time with Sestero, to just genuinely thank him for the book and everything. But, so that's, Sestero is kind of, like I said, maybe that's why I kind of, like, maybe Sestero is kind of elusive to me, but I digress.
Well, my point is just to tie my points together here so we can move forward, is that I guess, on the whole, I think, I guess my experience with it as well is connecting to the Sestero thing. I think the general audience, as kind of the general, I assume target, I guess the general, if not target audience, because again, it's trying to kind of, if anyone hasn't seen the room, they could watch this and get the experience of the room. That's kind of what they're going.
I don't know about that though.
Honestly, that's what I've heard from a lot of people today. I think that actually might be what they were kind of going for. If you haven't seen the room, then I'm saying if you're doing your job well as a filmmaker, it would be that, hey, just in case people haven't done their homework.
Well, look, it's like I am so married to the room that I have no idea what the experience of watching that movie blind would be like, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because there's just so many fan servicey things in the movie.
I'm just saying, you've got to imagine they do such a painstaking job in recreating things that has to be just to kind of summarize the room experience, even if people haven't seen it, so they get the gist of it.
Sure.
Anyway, but yeah, that's my point. Just the point is, I think the general audience experience of this movie, I think, just without knowing kind of all the, not having a barometer to judge it by, I think they'll enjoy this movie as much as I did.
Okay, so let's jump right into the actual film, Dragon. Last we went. We kind of ended on the infamous belly button scene, so I just kind of want to give my two takes on that. Dragon, to me, this is by far the best scene in the movie. It absolutely encapsulates like all the tension of what it was like on set. I love when the one character, Sandy's assistant.
That's sorry, I'm thinking of Jess Hudson character. No, it's not Sandy, but
Raphael.
Yeah, Raphael. Yeah, it's Raphael Shamaj or Samaj.
Okay, well, let's just say Raphael.
Basically played by Paul Scheer, the Paul Scheer character, Raphael, that guy.
So Dragon, I don't know. To me, he almost might have like I said that Josh Hutcherson might be like the second most accurate performance, but Paul Scheer, like this might be the second best performance in the whole movie, just because of how much of a ticking time bomb this guy is on the set. Because he is the guy in the movie that is bothered the most by Wiseau's antics. And Dragon, that moment where he just explodes at Tommy, the second time that he, basically humiliates Juliet Daniels. Like, no, she's still ugly. Get this off this real Hollywood movie. He just explodes like, if you humiliate that girl in front of everyone, I will kill you, you bastard, And Dragon, that's what it was like on that set, like practically every day. Because you got to remember, as I was kind of saying, Dragon, like there was that crazy story I told you where as a gift to Greg Sestero, Tommy kind of like, hired someone else to play Mark and then surprised Greg Sestero on the first day of shooting, which led to, sort of bad blood with everyone right from the get-go on the set. So I don't know, Dragon, like that moment in the movie, to me, this scene in particular, like you just feel so much tension. It's so on edge, and you just want to absolutely just grab Tommy and just shake him and slap him across the face. And so what do you think? To me, it's by far the most visceral scene in the film, and I wish more of the movie was like it, honestly.
It is a very impactful scene. What I really like is how it connects to the previous one, where you have, Tommy is feeling very kind of alienated and betrayed by the fact that, Greg is moving on. Greg's moving on with the girl. He's moving on with Amber. And, Tommy, again, despite the fact he's going to see him the next day at work, it's just that, again, the room being just kind of this autobiographical extrapolation of his own life, he feels that, he is, him being alone in that apartment is just kind of defeating the purpose of making the movie. So he's taking kind of that ridiculous and kind of petty embitteredness, and he's bringing it to set. Basically, we see the ugly side of Tommy, who can't be appeased by Greg because he's angry at Greg and he's taking it out on everyone. So it's just that something I was kind of touching on where we last left off with this scene, because I kind of started this scene.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we take something that would be typical for like a James Franco comedy. That time it's kind of fun, the similarities this has with the most recent James Franco comedy with Why Him. Of course, we had Keegan Michael
a lot
Key.
of odd comparisons between Why Him and this movie, I must say. It's almost like a weird Twilight Zone-esque thing with that.
Yeah, we have various actors from Why Him. We have the Pinky Swear. We have like a number of, of course, like, it's kind of a pairing of different personalities.
And also just like in general, just like the elusive, like quirky billionaire character.
Exactly. So there's a number of similarities, and of course, one just kind of for me started Why Him off on a bad note. That we have is just kind of the force, kind of like, hey, there's James Franco. A lot of people think he's attractive, and he's look, he's got an exposed butt right there. Funny, it's Franco shenanigans.
Let's just, oddly enough, Dragon, that is another connection between this.
I know, that's what I'm getting. Tiki, that's exactly what I'm trying to hit upon here. So in that context, you have just kind of like, okay, oh, ha ha ha, it's James Franco. Oh, look at her, there's his butt. Isn't that funny? Ha ha. But I like this scene. He's nude during the scene. Of course, it's an infamous thing from the room. That's why. So he went a little gratuitous with
Dragon. Oddly, to me, I feel like the fact that everyone knows that this moment exists and takes place, like it's almost kind of a miracle given today's current political spectrum that Wiseau's not just blacklisted.
Sure, but again,
because this was straight up like if there was ever a case of sexual harassment on a movie set, it was this moment.
Yeah, well, again, to be fair, I mean, even as you see it kind of go down here, it's strange as it is. I mean, Wiseau's own twisted, again, like Wiseau was just even if he was going to if that was thrown at him, he'd brush it off. That's just how.
Well, what I love, I'm sure you love this element too, is that Wiseau specifically is like, no, I like Kubrick, I like Hitchcock, and Kubrick and Hitchcock nice with their actors. I don't think so.
And that's the thing. It's that. So the other element of the setup for this scene I thought was really fascinating. They kind of brought up a little bit was that I love that he's feeling ostracized by Greg for ridiculous reasons, but he's watching the tapes that he's had made of everyone else. Where basically they're all making fun of him. They're all kind of undermining.
Which of course, that's another like odd. There's a lot of odd parallels between the making of The Room and the actual room, and that being one of the main ones because of course one of the famous subplots in The Room is the whole like, I'll show them, I will record everything.
Exactly, and you get to see again the making of the movie informing the movie itself, which is another fascinating element we get to see explored here, based on that. And regardless, what I'm saying is, with all these kind of these fun moments are kind of feeding into each other. What I'd like kind of visually as a symbol, I like that we didn't, but points we didn't turn the nudity into a gag. We actually made it kind of, it is kind of a symbol here. Is that Tommy is putting himself out there as he usually does, and he's exposed. And coming out of the previous scene, he's exposed, vulnerable, and ugly. In this scene, it's like an ugly nerve. It's just it's like it's like a exposed, vulnerable, ugly nerve in this scene that is just lashing out at everyone. All his frustrations, it's boiling to the surface. This is basically his big kind of, just his outrage in the scene here. And again, he's being hypercritical because again, it's the fact that he's probably being reminded that, hey, Greg, he's not only is he my successful better to a degree. And of course, I kind of threw out perhaps like, D, where are you coming in? You think there's a romantic undercurrent or not with why so Sestero element in this movie?
You know what? There definitely is in the book. Of course, much more like Wiseau romanticizing Sestero, of course. I gotta say though, Dragon, like the homoeroticism in the actual movie, like it's there, but I don't think it's like really prevalent.
Yeah, I like the balance they struck with that. I mean, I like that, again, it's kind of up to interpretation, because, again, we focus on those hand shots and kind of Tommy's reaction, but at the same time, it's just like the divide between he and his friend and he and kind of the idealization of himself and Greg. And with that is the point, like, looking at the idealization of it, is that Greg, he's with Ambrose, with the girl, and he's moving out, he's kind of moving on there. Tommy, the only way he can get close to that, because again he can ostracize himself with everyone, is that he has to it's acting in a scene with the with Juliet here. And again, in acting that scene, again he's being really he's being hypercritical because he's judging himself by Greg and his relationship within this fictional relationship, where again it's like it's not real, and he knows that. So I think that's also kind of feeding into why he's being hypercritical and looking at, again, like the American standard view, like, hey, she's got some realistic like acne on her shoulder or something, like, oh, she's hideous, it's just and again, like, Tommy will always be his worst enemy in that regard, holding himself up, basically taking American media and holding it up to this unhealthy building up to these unhealthy expectations, which he judges himself to. That's why Tommy's always a self-defeating prophecy.
Sure.
So yeah, I thought it's all interesting, and of course the Hitchcock thing. Basically, he's trying to do like a Kubrick Hitchcock thing, where he's punishing his actors, and again, without having that vision, without actually having vision, it just makes you look a real bad guy.
Dragon, I gotta say, a movie could definitely be made about the way that Stanley Kubrick treated Shelley Duvall on the set of The Shining.
I know technically there was a Hitchcock movie that exists based on that, for what Hitchcock did to Tippi Hedren in The Burden. So there's that.
I mean, to be honest with you, that was like more what I thought Hitchcock was going to be like, and obviously Hitchcock wasn't that.
Well, not a documentary, it was a biopic, and that's the thing. It was a skewed biopic because they fudged the details on that. So that's what it was. Anyway.
All right, so Dragon, anything else to say about that scene? I feel like we need to get the momentum going on this.
No. Again, it's just he's putting himself out there, and he's again, she's trying to he's trying to embody a standard that cannot be reached, and of course, then he attacks everyone, saying, "Hey, I watched you. I taped you. I watched you all, and I know everything you say." So basically, there's a big distrust. This is definitely the beginning of the end scene. That's the big takeaway.
Oh yeah. Okay, so getting into it, Dragon. One of the big cameos in this movie that you and I knew about and we were really excited for, and we kind of speculated about what it could be, is Bryan Cranston.
Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes.
Now, Dragon, I actually thought that Bryan Cranston, like, I didn't think it was going to happen because he was a little too old for the role, but wouldn't it be funny if Bryan Cranston played the actor playing Chris R.? The guy who's like going all like, who's the only one who's acting more meta than James Franco in this movie.
I don't think that would have worked.
Where's my fucking money, Jenny? Anyways. Bryan Cranston actually plays himself in Dragon. This, I'm pretty sure this is a true story.
Well, actually, I kind of listened to some interviews with Franco and the gang. So again, it wasn't for Malcolm in the Middle specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't for Malcolm in the Middle specifically. That was just something they kind of basically the why him experience at Cranston is kind of threw Cranston into the mix.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because that's the thing, Dragon. Like the way that this plays into the actual movie is so natural that I honestly forgot the details of what exactly Sestero's project was in the book, but it happens exactly the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like everything that goes down with this scene and the beard shaving and it's so on point with the actual story that the Bryan Cranston cameo is just it's wonderfully worked in. It's like a magic trick.
So here's what I loved, and as it was unfolding, what I really loved how detailed they were about this, because it feels very authentic. That it absolutely, I believe, 100% like it could happen in real life, though. It could have, because it feels so accurately done here. Is that Cranston? He is, the Cranston that we see here, and this is the clever thing they did over here. So there's. This is Cranston in the nice budding director phase. So he's not a Breaking Bad. And that was kind of the intention of why, and again, yet another reason to throw Cranston as the cameo in this scene. Like, hey, let's take someone everyone recognizes today as this one role, but it's kind of like, hey, there's the novelty, and see him as kind of with the movie about kind of rise.
When Breaking Bad first started, the whole hook of that was like, hey, did you hear about this weird new show? It's the dad from Malcolm in the Middle playing a drug dealer.
Sure, and of course, just the whole again, like someone kind of who's kind of boosted to the stratosphere with kind of the whole, why so, and Greg Sestero is kind of trying to reach for the stars as well. So kind of some reasons for that too. But again, like we have Cranston that budding director phase, where again he of course Cranston we know directs Breaking Bad, and of course he also had kind of a experience of he didn't go method with it, but he would direct himself in episodes at times. So again, it's kind of a similar kind of simpatico experience there. But again, this is Cranston. Like he's not if it were the Seinfeld '90s era Seinfeld Cranston, he would have had to have been younger. But this is like kind of the mid 2000s era, which again, Cranston has this thing where he kind of ceases to age at a certain point.
Right.
And basically, he looks very consistently himself. Just give him hair, and he looks very much just as Cranston always looks. That was kind of the genius there in terms of you don't really have to do much in terms of effects with him. So yeah, has a consistent look. And again, Tiki, this to me was so powerful about this, and this always gets like kind of great reaction.
And this is definitely the emotional center of the book as well. So I'm really happy that they captured this moment as well as they did. It's just great, because the actual. The actual beard shaving, it's such a symbol. It's such a symbol for the deconstruction of Tommy and Greg's friendship. And Dragon, I love how they build up to it too, because throughout the movie, I was noticing that basically every time there'd be a jump in time in this movie, it starts with a shot of Greg Sestero from the back, and you don't know if he has the beard or not, right? And so to me, watching it, knowing how important that beard moment was going to be in the story, I was always anticipating like, okay, is he going to have the beard? Is he going to have the beard? And so when he does have the beard, I'm like, oh, okay, it's time for it to really get going. You know what I mean?
Now, of course, that didn't dawn on me until the moment it happened. Is, of course, they kind of make a gag out of the shave in the actual Room movie. It's kind of like it's like, hey, it was a reveal.
Okay, I got a story for this. So, of course, Dragon, everything that you see about the actual moment, like the tension of like Greg just pleading, like, please, man, just give me this one thing. And Tommy, of course, mostly out of the jealousy of the Amber situation, he's just being like, no, we make big movie together, Greg. I have to choose. And that's all very accurate, Dragon. But just little behind the scenes tidbits here that weren't necessarily reflected in the movie. The whole babyface thing was actually an improv on Wiseau's part when Greg walked through the door. Oh, babyface. And Greg was actually like pleading to Wiseau behind the scenes, like, look, man, I know your instinct is going to call me babyface, but it's not in the script. It's going to be embarrassing to me. You already made me shave the beard. Can you please just not do that, right? And Wiseau's like, oh, yeah, sure, Greg. But then, of course, in the actual moment, he's like, oh, babyface. It's like he couldn't resist. He just had to sneak it in.
There's a little private war between them going on.
Right, and Dragon, just one of the things it's impossible to really like replicate the feeling of this in the actual movie because it's kind of like an inner dialogue sort of thing. But the moment where Philip Halderon and Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero are doing like, oh, you're just a chicken, Peter. Cheap. like, you notice that Greg Sestero's arms are just like kind of lightly slapping back and forth, and he's just not into the whole thing at all. And he just has this like, oh God, please kill me. What the hell am I doing? Look on his face. Because that's like right after the whole like, all right, this guy just literally kind of like, he could have just potentially ruined my career with this damn beard. And now he can't even give me the respect of not calling me babyface. It's just like, this is like the real moment where Greg Sestero has just had it up to here with Tommy. So, Dragon, go ahead. What are your feelings on this moment?
Anyway, yes. So one, again, the Cranston thing is just, it's really well integrated. And of course, like I love that he's the bringer of hope, Bryan Cranston, into this movie, which is just in itself great.
Oh, well, we're all on a journey.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have it's just we see this sad and cruel manipulation on Tommy's part, and that's when it's all coming into focus here. It's when you're starting to realize again. I'm starting to remember that gag of like, oh yeah, they treat it like it's like a non-reveal, and then of course it's done. But like, oh yeah, I know how this goes. And again, I'm on pins and needles, seeing just like like this the sad desperation. This is where the manipulations of why are really starting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
The stuff you wanted to see more of. I think again, it's a great example.
Sure.
Of scene there. Where basically, Tommy is literally he's holding Greg back intentionally and kind of out of malice, and it's really like I was on the edge of my seat, knowing what was going to unfold. Like the moment right after when they shot, it was dawning. I was like, oh God, this is going to be so. Because again, Greg just very humbly is asking, like, can we again after this production? It's again so far it's like not beyond the 40 days yet. I don't think it's not beyond the 40 days at this point. But regardless, you get a sense that okay, it's like again. They can push it back and rearrange some scenes for at least a day or two, at the very least a day, and Tommy just won't grant that to him because again he's making it sound like it's super important, it's pivotal to the plot, and it unfolds. I love the way this is shot so much. These one of my favorite moments. Basically, I have my favorite shot is coming up in a later scene. This is one of my favorite moments in the movie, though. Just the way how this is shot, just how it unfolds like a tragic punchline. That Greg, he'll beg his friend, he'll beg Tommy, and Tommy just we don't have it said, we just revealed with the clipper going on, it's like the beard is being shaven off along with his dreams, and we just have that, and this is the thing I knew was coming. Like they shoot the scene, and then Tommy Wiseau, who we've seen in a really comedic scene the movie was marketed on, the Oh Hi Mark takes like more than like 19 takes. And the baby face, the clean shaven, like non-reveal, one take for a dumb joke. Yep. That again, I'm not gonna say ruined. It possibly ruined his career. And again, we lost the gig, and he lost the girl because she saw his weakness in this moment of like not fighting Tommy on it. It's like, oh God, it's and the sad thing is, of course, Greg had all the power here because he's the star. He could have just said, no, I'm not doing it. They would have had to do it, but he had respect for Tommy when he shouldn't have.
Sure.
So, oh my God, it's such a wonderfully tragic scene, and again, that's like the riff of their friendship right there. It's like, oh God, and that's the abusive relationship in effect in that scene.
Yeah, definitely. Like you were saying, Dragon, that is like one of those things I kind of wish the movie would have like hit a little bit more on.
Oh my God, they hit it so well in that scene.
They did.
Oh yes. Anyway, okay, let's take heat exhaustion.
Okay, heat exhaustion. This should go by pretty quick. It's just like kind of like a real world, like exactly how the circumstances were on the set. Again, Dragon, I kind of wish we would have seen a little bit more of this because I feel like it comes out of nowhere. Like I feel like they could have built to it a little bit more.
So now I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this is where the little counter is now in the gag with the counter being like out of 40 days. I mean, this is where it's starting to get really brilliant. And again, it's really brutal after we see a scene like that. Like again, also T, that's like a dark punchline too. Is that again after that scene, after shooting that scene, then it says this many days out of the 40. Saying, oh my God, they could have pushed it back. He could have given him that day. Exactly.
Right.
So I will say that's like a good. I think honestly that's a good subtle transition. I think just saying that. I don't think it makes it. I think it makes it seem a little less random. Just saying it's another day in crazy paradise where things are just like again like all hope is lost at this point in production. Anyway, yeah. So Carolyn.
Okay, so. I'm sorry, what?
Tommy's mistreating the actors. The set's really hot. He's showing up late. He's denying them the basic necessities that he really has to provide for them, like drinking water.
Mm-hmm. which
Won't
of
pay
course
for it.
leads to the heat exhaustion and the passing out of the Suzette actress.
Yeah, Carolyn.
Yeah.
And it also, again, the fact that Thomas has all this money and he will not spring for air conditioning. And again, it's such a petty thing just to put these guys through the ringer for what he views as their betrayal. And of course, Tiki, the great kind of scene after they all go to lunch.
Yes, and that scene, Dragon, I feel like kind of just encapsulates the sort of just like the bondy nature of this movie production in general, and I feel like Carolyn's speech, the whole like, well, the reason why I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive 2 hours in traffic to get here is because I'm an actress, and this is, even the worst movie set is better than any other job. With Dragon, I feel like that's a really poignant moment that I'm glad they got in. And as soon as I saw the launch, and as soon as I saw them like having the conversation with Carolyn, I sort of like I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna get this speech. That's good. That's good.
It's a testament to fame's destructive trade-off. That's kind of what it is. It's always like the old. I always pull it from Brad Bird, but I mean I know it was around before. It's sort of the pain is temporary, film's forever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what kind of Carolyn's embodying there with the whole acting experience.
Right. So then I guess Dragon, one of the things I really wish the movie would have basically I feel like the biggest missed opportunity is that the fact that Tommy firing basically the whole crew happens off camera.
I mean, I think you're right, but T, let me ask you this.
And then we don't even see why Seth Rogen is so forgiving of Tommy at the end.
Let me ask you this, Tiki. In the book, is like there a big scene of the firing? Is time dedicated to that in the book?
I mean, I want to say that time's dedicated to Sandy is definitely someone who had ties to other people in Hollywood and basically could have ruined Wiseau's reputation. So yeah, basically losing Sandy was a big moment. Losing Sandy was almost like the death of the whole production in a way, because that Sandy was like the one source of legitimacy that set had. And now with that gone, it was like, okay, what the hell are any of us doing here now?
Well, let me throw this at you, Tiki. What I really like about the scene, the way it unfolds, and I think the reason they might have gone with this over spending like a direct kind of firing scene, because one, we've seen kind of the threat of firing before, where we have like he forgives Raphael, he's like saying, no, I keep you around, just that whole thing. I give you another chance. So all that, the point is like firing is on the table. So again, it kind of takes.
That's another thing that kind of bothered me, is that after Raphael explodes at Tommy, we don't really get any more real tension between the two. It just kind of fizzles out. That's kind of my problem, Dragon, is I feel like there's no real endpoint to the movie. It's just like, oh, okay, I guess the movie's over now.
I'm saying part of me thinks that's why they didn't dedicate more scenes to that, to like a direct firing, because it would have been a rehash of what we saw before. And what I really like about the way it unfolds is that, again, you kind of get a sense of what's about to happen when Tommy's calling him over. But what I really like is that Tommy, basically this gets us to the, Tommy's hired, a new director and cameraman. Well, I mean, like a new cameraman and crew, just, new DPs. And they head back to San Francisco. What I really love about this scene is kind of our end of Act 2. Again, really short Act 3, but we're end of Act 2. Is that this is Tommy trying to recapture the magic of, and this thing, I think this is something that really makes me fascinated to kind of go back and watch the scene in the room, because it adds a whole lot of character and dimension to assuming this happened in real life.
Oh yeah, this is very true to real life. Yes.
The fascinating thing is that Tommy is trying to capture the magic of Act 1, where they met each other and they're playing football and they're in the same location. Like, he doesn't just shoot it just somewhere to make it look like San Francisco. They actually go to San Francisco to go out of their way, because Tommy's just trying to, again, as the movie is kind of a commentary on Tommy's life with Greg. This is him just trying to kind of get things back to when it was just the two of them. That's why he let all the other guys go, and I think that kind of punctuates that, like, not seeing them get fired. It's like Tommy's just so delusional, he's just trying to relive the past and recreate the past despite all the bad stuff he's done to Greg.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just kind of like the reveal like that, and of course, just, trying to play toss the football around, and of course, it's just, and that's the football payoff. Of course, been hyping up since the beginning of Act 1. So again, I like how full circle that comes, and again, adds to that And if you, I watched the clip of it. I got to give it like a full watch to see how all this stuff kind of comes together. So bear in mind, what in this scene, like a clip of this scene I saw is that in the actual movie, yeah, they are kind of pushing each other around. And from what I understand, what I recall, I think it's done silently, which implies, assuming this is how it goes down, this implies that this scene, they might he might have muted the dialogue of the fight in this scene where we see them actually do all the physical movements they do in this scene. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. I did, to be honest with you, I can't really verify your theory one way or another, but that's interesting.
I'm saying, assuming they don't say anything, and if there's like it's just stock footage, like them messing around, shoving each other, and like throwing the football around.
Right.
If there's no dialogue, that means they could have had this heated argument, but we, you know.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, Dragon. I'll have to go back and look at that footage again, and with that in mind.
And this is a big scene. It's a great ending of Act 2 here, where again, he's had enough of Tommy's BS. Like, essentially, this is, when I say the last shot of production, whether it was intended to be that or not, it was like, this is just where he ended it because Greg didn't want to do the movie anymore. And he's just, he's yelling at him. He's giving him all the questions about his past.
To be fair, technically, they did a bunch of pickup shots in San Francisco that were used as establishing shots after this, but.
Well, regardless, just in the movie, that's kind of what they're selling it as. That's what they're implying, that this is like Greg just walked off after this moment. But yeah, again, there could have been.
Well, no, Greg wasn't with them, but I'm just saying Tommy and the and the backup crew, they shot the establishing San Francisco shots after this.
Well, Greg's last day of shooting, let's say. Anyway, the point is, he's just he's confronting all these questions about his past, which, as we know, and especially as the book is kind of implied, that you ask Tommy about his past, bad things are coming. Again, it rubs him the wrong way here, and again, it's just the friendship just kind of implodes in this moment. I love that the image we kind of leave Act 2 off of is Tommy alone with his camera, alone with his movie, alone. Just the fact that, again, Tommy alone has always been like a poignant image throughout this film, that, he feels betrayed when Greg just kind of leaves him alone in his apartment. He's alone outside, and again, just alone with the camera. All he has is his movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, real poignant end to Act 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Act 3 is basically just the premiere.
Well, we have the great billboard reveal. That's a great way of kind of coming back from
and
that.
Again, Dragon, I wish that, I don't know, I feel like an asshole because to me, I'm kind of just like, okay, again, I kind of wish that the billboard and kind of like the build up and the hype around this was, and kind of like the what the hell quality was emphasized a little bit more.
Well, let's address one thing. There's the kind of umbrella, like a main gripe that I think everyone would have with the movie. That, again, it just depends like how much of it kind of Edward. How much biopic slack can you cut it, essentially? This is kind of the main grievance of Act 3. That time, the passage of time is something you got to give just the foreshadow, because, of course, it's going to factor in directly when we get to the premiere. The kind of the time passing is kind of a romanticized kind of abbreviation we have in this movie. That, the whole thing of the billboard is that, hey, it went on, it stayed up there for years, for a long time. But one is like, that's just them kind of showcasing, like, hey, remember the billboard? You guys can look into that. You can be
okay.
So again, we just again, they really abbreviate Act 3, which I'll give you that. Honestly, if there was like a director's cut, that stuff I'd imagine there'd be more stuff in Act 3.
Kind of like the build up of the Dragon. To me, basically, Act 3, the way I equate it is it works. Like I really don't have as much of a problem with the condensing of Act 3 as I do with, say, the fact that I wish that there would have been a little bit more paranoia and a little bit more manipulation on Wiseau's part throughout the movie. Because you know what it works, what it feels like. It's basically saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah, and again, that's not a bad.
It's not exactly how it went down in real life, but it's like it's close enough, and it pretty much like captures the themes of the movie. That's like, all right, you know what? Fine. I'll give it a pass.
Sure. So let's see. So of course, Tommy, he invites Greg to the premiere. I like that we're kind of visually we have that divide going on where he has the sunglasses on, the classic Tommy Wiseau. But in this movie, remarkably, we've gotten a lot of Wiseau without sunglasses on. I was saying, like, he was outside the premiere. I like the fact that he's outside the theater performance. That Greg's begun going to the theater and he's been acting, and the fact that's where they met. They met kind of in a black box theater of some kind of auditioning, kind of getting acting lessons. And so the fact that Tommy's so beyond that at this point, he won't step foot inside of a theater.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was kind of telling. So, here's my favorite shot of the movie, David. My favorite shot of the movie is this. I love in the limo ride. I love this. For me, this, if I could ever pick one image for this movie, it would be the symbol. I thought it was the most brilliant. I loved it so much. The symbol of the film, the symbol of these two characters, the symbol of this whole film is Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero in the limo, surrounded by all the boxes. And I knew the images I've seen. I think the Saturday Screen might have pulled like an image of this in the review or something. Just like Tommy Wiseau like having like a little. Basically, on the little merch table with the screens.
Sure, yeah.
I was familiar with that image, and just all the room T-shirts and posters and merchandise and everything. But these two guys in their tuxedos, of course, similar from the movie, them in tuxedos from the football round.
Of course.
Just in there, just in this limo, going to a big premiere with all this, all this like the room, it's all around them. And again, like these two guys, kind of having been through the experience they've been through in the film, just kind of getting ready to face their destiny.
You're right. That is a very poignant kind of visual. I like that.
And of course, it kind of builds to the image we see before us here of those two same guys kind of eventually at that premiere. But again, it's all that's just that one concise image for me. Is that dazzles me so much about this movie. It really is. So yeah, of course, a little fake, kind of a Andy Kaufman-esque fake out.
No, I have to make them wait. Drake, I think one of the biggest laugh out loud moments in the whole movie is like when he walks out of the limo and it's like, "Oh, hey everybody, so we late, traffic crazy."
Yeah. And
then, of course, the premiere. Like I said, Dragon, it's freaking Saving Mr. Banks is what it is. It's saccharine. It's a lot more sweet than what actually happened. Like, basically, in real life, this is how room screenings are now. It's like Wiseau being celebrated as this cult figure, and him basically being like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys love my comedy movie,"
Okay, now, two things. One, I like that they basically, what I love about this Act 3 here, and what I like about that approach, kind of that Save Mr. Banks approach, is that basically it's kind of like, it's a pushed version of Ed Wood. Ed Wood just kind of ends before you see the reaction. That was always a clever part of that movie. And this is basically like, it shows a little bit more of aftermath beyond that. So it's kind of like there was a good balance like in between like Ed Wood or Save Mr. Banks. So I really appreciate that. The other thing,
Dragon, really, I don't mind it at all. It's one of the few, it's definitely one of the changes from the book that while it's not exactly what happens in real life, I think it works in the narrative of the actual film, so I'll give it a pass.
Yeah, something else. I'm just saying to consider as well. I'm really curious about this. I wonder if how much was in like kind of the fine print of the. I know one thing that was in fine print with the Wiseau kind of signing over the movie rights to this, but I do have to wonder
which should be like the last thing we talk about in the movie, and I definitely have stories about that. So maybe you want to hold off on that a little bit.
All right. Well, let's just say I wonder if some certain stipulations to the ending applied with that. We'll get.
It could be. I haven't heard anything about that personally, but
I wonder if they say Mr. Banks' stipulation was in the contract.
God, I see that movie say. I'm sorry, Dragon. Maybe you'd like to do Wiseau talking about saving Mr. Banks.
Okay, let me think here. Okay, I'm just trying to think of. I guess Seth, because he was a producer on the film as well, right?
What?
Like Seth Rogen, he also was a producer on the film.
Yes. So go ahead and talk to Seth again.
Seth, Evan, come over here, guys. Listen, Evan Goldberg, the other. Guys, listen. I want to give you movie. I want to give you movie rights, but and of course it's James Franco as Tommy Wiseau, which is assumed, but by the end of production he's completely lost it. But guys, listen. Oh God, James, the movie's over. No, guys, listen. I watched another movie, not on Netflix, but I watched another movie. It was Mr. Banks. Saving Mr. Banks. It's great movie about Mickey Mouse and lady kind of become friend with Mickey Mouse. She got assigned a contract to him in room, and it's another room. Anyway, guys,
I got to go see a screening with Walt Disney. You were in a room with me.
So anyway, just you're watching movie and everyone loves the movie. You think you don't know if she likes the movie or not. Anyway. Ambiguity, guys. We gotta get ambiguity into the movie. We gotta get, tears, happy tears.
Well, to be fair, Dragon, I think there's more ambiguity in the Saving Mr. Banks ending than there is in the Disaster Artist.
I'm just saying, Tommy would probably infer that as ambiguity of like, I don't know. I mean, they're coming expecting one thing, and then then it's another great thing. It's like, guys, let me show the guys. Grab the popcorn. Let's watch the movie, and we'll get to the end, and then we'll shoot it. Seth, you can do that, right?
Tommy, you know I don't actually shoot the movie. I just played the character who's the cameraman. All right,
Seth, you're so funny.
Okay, so Dragon, I guess one last thing is just kind of the Wiseau cameo. You want me to get into that?
I still wanted to talk about the ending. The main thing, one thing we really want to hit on with that screening,
yeah,
is it is kind of a more twisted kind of version of what gets us to Ed Wood. There, we have this, that poignant scene where everyone begins to laugh, and again, you expect this, but again, I love seeing, again, I think the sympathy for Wiseau just kind of, after all he's put us through, again, seeing developing that sense of sympathy where he's being laughed at, and where Greg starts to laugh even though he tries to hide it, just the single tear that falls down his face in that scene.
I'm telling you, man, Franco's mastered the art of the single tear.
That's the thing. It's the realization that he's made a bad movie. Like every filmmaker has that deep down memory that they made a bad movie. And Wiseau throughout the whole film has been so confident in his ability as a filmmaker, though it should be warranted at all. He's, and he goes out there and he had that really kind of heart-warming scene between him and Greg. And again, this is basically abbreviating kind of what would take years to actually happen in real life. But again, suspension of cinematic disbelief, if you will. Mm-hmm. The point is, I like that, and this is the fascinating thing. I like that we have such a mixed, triumphant yet depressing moment where he re-enters the theater, where everyone's saying, "Do it!" as he shoots. As he's
you know what? I'm glad you hit on that, Dragon, because I do love the kind of the dark undertones of that moment.
That's what I'm saying, T. That's what, again, like another kind of, again, it's kind of it's sort of that. Again, that's the ambiguity I'm talking about there.
Because it's like, of course, like Tommy, wanted that moment in the movie to just be heartbreaking, for the audience to be like, no, Johnny, don't, Johnny, you're better than them. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think the message in that scene, Teak, I really think the message in that scene is that, Tommy, as he goes up on stage and he basically, like on a dime, he basically says, he's taking the unconventional success of the movie as a comedy, saying, oh, yes, it was entirely intentional, yes.
I'm glad you enjoy my dark comedy movie.
That's what I'm saying, but I think just him walking up there, is walking in at that moment, is saying that, hey, success. It's almost like a Twilight Zone ending for success in Hollywood, saying like, hey, your pain is going to be, your secret pain is going to be what your livelihood is going to be. To own success, you have to take your greatest.
So Tommy Wiseau's basically the Meg Griffin of Hollywood.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but you see what I mean, though, right? I mean, that's just,
I do.
I think it's kind of. I think it's an interesting. I thought it was a really good directorial choice. It's a good choice in the movie. Whoever made that decision.
Oh.
Anyway, of course, then we have the side by side. I love how we use the night vision footage along the actual, like those three questions still have not been answered.
Right.
Again, there's a movie based on that. I don't know. I think it's on Amazon. No, you probably have to buy it on Amazon. I don't know, but I think it's on Amazon. There's this a movie that Wiseau was involved with about all the night vision reactions to the film.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. I mean, he says, I don't know if that's just them using the Wiseau footage or if he's actually involved in it. I would assume he's involved in it. Anyway. And of course, we have the side-by-side comparison, which is impressive. Just, playing the footage side-by-side, kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, the greatest fan film ever made ending.
Which, to be honest with you, Dragon, I feel like it almost kind of bothers me that I feel like they had a little bit too much fun recreating all the scenes. Like, because it almost gives me the sense that they, like the effort that could have gone into like fine tuning the screenplay to like include all these symbols from the book I wanted to have. Instead, it's like, oh, let's recreate the actual movie shot by shot, like Gus Van Sant.
And Tiki, that
hey,
ending.
Seth, I see this remake, huh? Gus Van Sant shoots Psycho shot by shot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Tiki, I gotta tell you, I think that side by side, that still infers to me that it's an intentional move to again, if anyone hasn't seen The Room, they'll give them a good approximation of what The Room is.
No, you're right. It just bugs me that there's literally a whole movie of a recreation of The Room that they put their effort into, Dragon. That's the thing.
I do wonder, Tiki, on the DVD release, I wonder if perhaps I may be
Oh,
crazy.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we will see it.
How long, Tiki? Remind me. Do you know how long the room is?
It's like 90 minutes, like 95 minutes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it might be a tall order, but it'd be astounding if, because again, from what I've
see what I'm saying. Like, I agree with you. The side-by-side stuff is helpful to people who haven't seen the room, but I almost feel like they went a little bit overboard with the effort.
Sure, I mean, it'd be a heck of a DVD bonus feature, though.
Oh, it would be. It would be.
That's what I'm saying. You know, it's a plus. I mean, you gotta remember, basically, you take the exterior shots, and that was kind of the cool thing, experience I had during the movie, because it was kind of dawning on me that they. I think this is a sign that they did a really good job in the recreations. Is that when I was watching the movie, I saw the establishing shots, which looks like they directly just pulled from the movie. And initially I was thinking, okay, we're doing the thing where it's like the ending of Chaplin, where we use the actual footage of Chaplin instead of the Downey Jr. stuff, where he did such a good job. It's like. Then, of course, for a moment there, from a distance, okay, looks you can't tell, but until we get a real good close-up Tommy Wiseau bit, it's like, oh my god, it's the Franco Wiseau. It's the fact that there's like a little bit of minor splicing going on there, which kind of makes you raise an eyebrow. I think that's a great sign for how good a job they did.
That splicing kind of goes back to the Andy Kaufman thing, right?
Yeah, and I gotta wonder if perhaps if they, to make up the difference in the 90 minutes, just take the footage that they do have and maybe add some splicing.
I could see that. I could see that.
Make me buy it for full price. I'll tell you that much. If they did all that.
God. Okay, Dragon. So just to wrap up, I have a quick story about the Tommy Wiseau cameo, and then I'm going to tease you about the next Wiseau. What?
Should we establish what the cameo is before you get into the story? Or
I guess. Sure.
So basically, right at the very end, post-credits scene, of course, you have Tommy singing during the credits, which is also kind of funny. But at the very end, we see Tommy's at a party, and he kind of meets a very intriguing individual.
Yes.
Who is? I know it's not pronounced Henry, but it's like Henry, or it's like it has a weird emphasis in it.
Right.
Like Heinrich, I think. I don't know. I think that's how it goes. Anyways, the point is like this individual's trying to befriend. He's trying to befriend Tommy and just kind of critiquing him, and just Tommy's not having any of it. It's like, where does Greg find these guys?
Okay, so of course, Dragon, it's well known that Tommy Wiseau, one of the big stipulations is that he'd have a cameo in the movie, like Hitchcock. And so this whole cameo of Wiseau just kind of, it so perfectly encapsulates the brilliant weirdness that is this man. Because he shows up on set, and, of course, everyone was figuring like, oh, Tommy, he'll play. Oh, by the way, Dragon, did you spot Sestero?
Well, no, here's what I heard, Tiki, and I could be wrong here. What I heard is that Sestero had a different cameo, but it made the cutting room floor. They didn't get him in there.
No, he's in the crowd.
He is? Well, okay, well, you sure?
Yeah, he's in the crowd, like right after, I believe it's right after when they're watching the movie and Mark has the whole, like, keep your stupid comments in your pocket. And then you see Sestero in the crowd, like, reacting to it.
Huh. All right. That's cool.
So, I mean, unless it's just someone who, like, oddly looks like Sestero and who's in the center of the frame emphasized.
No, I'll take it where I heard something else, but again, well, I guess you're right.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, so they're picturing like it's going to be like a Stan Lee experience.
Exactly. They're picturing it's going to be something like, Tommy's like walking on like, oh, gee, I real director of this movie, something like that, some sort of like meta, like breaking the fourth wall thing. But Tommy, no. Tommy wants to play a character. And Tommy's got like notes on this guy written up, trying to, and that's why he's got that oddly specific name, like the emphasis on, the Henry. And, and Dragon, of course, the funniest thing being the fake mustache, which they had real facial hair ready to go, but Tommy Wiseau, he's just like, no. And of course, right, it goes back to like our favorite saying, like this real Hollywood movie, I do it real Hollywood way. And, he draws on the freaking facial hair, which I know there's certain stars in Hollywood back in the golden era that used to do that. Yeah, of course. So I think it's probably, going back to the whole Tommy Wiseau's fascination with old Hollywood, right? So I don't know. It's just like the whole idea of like him showing up with like all these notes about this weird character that he probably spent months thinking about and preparing for. And it's just like, and of course, the post credits is like the perfect way to sneak it into the actual movie. And yeah, that's about it.
Also, I don't. This is really cute, and this I think it's a good note to end that cameo on. Is that this is really sweet. This shows you the bond that James Franco did have and respect he had for Tommy Wiseau. Because in the contract, as James Franco was kind of going on record saying this, the contract stipulates that Wiseau has a cameo with him, but they shoot a cameo with Wiseau. There's nothing in the contract about including it in the movie.
Right.
So again, like with Sestero, like they had a more in-depth. From what I hear, they actually had like an in-depth. Like I don't want to say in-depth. They had like a more focused scene with Sestero. Like, oh look, it's Greg Sestero. Instead of like, hey, if you really look, there's Sestero.
I'm telling you, he's in the middle of the frame.
I know that. Look, I'm just saying there was like more of like a gag with Sestero.
Right.
My point is like, they realized, oh, we don't need to put him in the movie. We just need to shoot it, and as a kindness to Tommy Wiseau, they put it in there as a show of respect to the guy. That's what Franco did for him. It was really nice.
Yeah, and I think it does work as a post-credit scene because I think it's supposed to be set like like after the premiere, right?
Man, it's I don't know, it's a little up in there because he's not in a tuxedo, but I mean, it's I don't know. It might have been just like the party that. Okay, actually, you know what? It might be that party that Greg was at earlier when he's kind of talking to his friend about Wiseau.
I could see that, yeah.
That's where I thought it was. But it could be like just a different day after the premiere. I don't know.
Okay. Or it could be like I was thinking it was like the after party of the premiere.
Oh, sure. Well, again, Wiseau just got a costume change, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, so Dragon, would you be interested in like once this movie actually becomes available, the next Wiseau Sestero team up talking about it?
Well, I mean, I've heard what it is. It's
called Best Friends.
I don't know if I'd see it in theaters, but I would.
I don't know if you can see it in theaters.
Right.
I'm just saying, if it becomes available to stream and you have access to it.
If it becomes available to stream, yes, I would do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, folks, let me tease this. I'm just going to read off the Wikipedia premise in Wiseau's voice, okay? When a drifter, Greg Sestero, is taken in by a peculiar mortician, Tommy Wiseau, the two hatch an underground enterprise off the back of the mortician's old habits. Greed, hatred, and jealousy soon come in turn, and their efforts reveal, causing the drifter to run off with the spoils and leaving the mortician adrift. An expedition across the Southwest introduced wild and crazy character through a series of dark, twisted fables as both men learn valuable lessons about friendship and loyalty. So, Dragon, essentially, this sounds like a more high-budget, like, road trip version of The Room.
From what I heard, Tiki, this is actually based on the road trip segment that we saw unfold. That's kind of where the genesis of this idea came from.
I could see that, except, with the exception of the fact that Greg Sestero is playing a man whose family has been kidnapped by evil ninjas, and Tommy Wiseau is playing, like, this weird mortician who runs an underground diamond business,
Well, I guess we should also tease the other stuff that Wiseau is involved with, because he has a few documentaries in the works.
Okay.
So, the Room Full of Spoons, I've been dying to watch it, but here's the thing. Room Full of Spoons, actually, Wiseau's guys very much like what happened with Nostalgia Critic unfolded, where, he worked with them, but his guys kind of halted the release of it, so that's why it's hard to find. But
Dragon, he also did a show on Hulu, which he pulled from Hulu.
That's the interesting thing. I hear like now Room Full of Spoons, like basically it's a matter of time after the movies come out, they'll be re-releasing that. So basically, Room Full of Spoons should be that's the one. Now the reason why I most likely pulled that is because that one's all about speculating where Tommy Wiseau came from. That's what I heard at least. Anyway, so there's that. Also, again, there's the whole, as Tiki and I have kind of teased, it would be fascinating to see a Jim and Andy style documentary about the disaster artists, with, of course, Franco in character when he's on the set, but also just the making of disaster artists. You gotta imagine, the Wiseau segments of that would also be pretty amazing.
Mm.
Wiseau teased that he was writing a book about the Disaster Artist movie
Oh
being made,
God.
which of course some people like Jimmy Kimmel said, hey, there's your next movie. Which again, documentary or no, I'd be so down for that movie. And lastly, Enter the Samurai, basically about Samurai Cop 2, which Wiseau stars in. Well, he's featured in, and
yes.
it was a documentary featuring Wiseau himself. So,
All right.
those are the things they got cooking right now.
And like I said, folks, especially Best Friends. I'm really excited for Best Friends.
Best Friends or Best Fiends.
Aww. All right. So, Dragon, final thoughts on the Disaster Artist?
Right. Honestly, at the end, like the only gripes I have was, I wish the spoon thing was explained. I would have. I found out what the spoon thing is from Sestero, but still, I wanted to see that in the movie. Darn, it was like my only expectation going is, I'm dying to see if they put the spoon thing in there. And honestly, the one other thing I should bring up that I was kind of hoping to see in the movie, but I get why they didn't put it in there just based on where they ended it. I would have liked to see I really want to see like Greg's decision to create the book, like kind of allude to that more in the movie, but at the very end, like the kind of meta quality of, hey, it's a movie called Disaster Artist, and there's a book called Disaster Artist. Like see him like start to create the book or sit there think about creating the book.
Right.
So, those are the only two things I would have liked to see in the movie. Honestly, I would have liked to add in there. I mean, the whole Planet Tommy thing sounds fascinating. Got some other stuff in there, I'm sure, but I'm saying those are my two things. Anyway, on the whole, I really enjoyed seeing what led to the room within this film. I thought it was an enjoyable character study of someone we don't fully understand with Wiseau. Again, it's kind of a cross. The best praise I can give is kind of a cross between Ed Wood and Man on the Moon in terms of a biopic, which is kind of my sweet spot for a biopic. I think it captures the feel of the room, and it's very well directed. And that's kind of what you want to capture the feel of the movie you're making. Again, kind of like what Ed Wood has done. Having not read the book, I thought it was very fulfilling and informative. It's got gives some added dimension and more character to the room and why so retroactively, which I think is a good quality the film kind of possesses. And it's just on the whole, I was just pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this, and I really enjoyed this movie. It was a great experience watching, and I look forward to seeing it again at some point. And then maybe not in theaters, but I definitely look forward to rewatch. I'm definitely getting this one on DVD. Oh boy, I can't wait for it.
And you really need to check out the book too, Dragon. You could probably get it for like less than $10 paperback on Amazon, I'm guessing.
Right.
So, all right, folks. Well, yeah, like I said, I really, to me, it really kind of comes down to James Franco's performance. Like, if he doesn't get nominated for Best Actor, I don't think he's going to win Best Actor. But if he doesn't get nominated, I think that's just a shame. I'm glad he got nominated for a Golden Globe, even though we all know the Golden Globes are a sham. But I digress. So yeah, I like this a lot. I just wish that I could imagine what this movie would be like in the hands of someone like a Paul Thomas Anderson or a David Fincher. But for the movie it is, I feel like it is very, very serviceable, and it is anchored by an incredible performance. So you got to give it that. All right, folks. Well, see you later.
Give me Oscar.
Seth.